Hello everyone, welcome back to Everything Swift. Today we'll be tackling Leetcode question 200 titled Number of Islands. We're given a 2D grid array here of type characters and we're supposed to determine how many number of islands are existing in that particular 2D array. So basically ones are the land and zeros are 1, right? And this example here is pretty good to give us some clarity on what we are supposed to achieve today. Basically, all these connecting ones are the LAN. So as you can see here, the answer is 1, and that is because if we take a look at this 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, these are all connecting ones, but that just represent a single island, right? Because these are all land and zeros are all the water, basically, right? So if you imagine this invincible border around all the ones connecting it, we basically just get one piece of land, right? That is surrounded by this water here that is represented by 0, right? So just hypothetically speaking, imagine this 0 here is also of character 1, then that means that our answer will be 2, right? Because this connecting ones is basically one island, but we also have one land here that is surrounded by this water here, so that means we have another island here, right? So the answer will be 2. So just to give you another set of example of what we are supposed to do, right? So the question is like how we're going to solve this, right? I'm going to use a recursion strategy here. And what we're going to do is first we're going to loop through this 2D array and we're going to check if it's of type len, right? If it's 1 basically. If it is, we're going to run the recursion. And in the recursion function, what it's going to do is it's going to recursively go horizontally and vertically based on that particular index, and we're going to check if it's basically len. If it is, we're just going to continue the recursion until we break out from that recursion, right? So that will basically count like whether this island is continuous or not, right? If it is, we just keep continuing and then we break it out and then we sum up all the islands that we have counted so far. So I know it's a bit hard to visualize, so I'm just going to jump straight into code. I think it's easier to visualize and get clarity on what I just said. So first I'm just going to check if the grid is empty. If it is, I'm just going to return 0 because there's basically no island inside a empty grid. And I'm just going to make the grid as a variable because we're going to manipulate it. And then num of islands, what we're going to do is 0 here, and then I'm just going to return num of islands. So here I'm going to look through this 2D grid, just looking through, nothing special here. And as I said, like because what we are interested in is calculating the number of islands, right? Which means we are supposed to calculate the number of lands basically that's surrounded by water. So the first thing we're going to do is check that if it's a land type, right? If it's water, there's no interest for us. So I'm just going to check if it's character 1 here, and if it is, this is where we're going to run our recursion here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to set up this recursion function as count grid. We have to pass in the grid because we are supposed to check horizontally and vertically, right? So here's the character I, and here's j, and we're going to return integer, right? So because we're going to look through vertically and horizontally, we have to make sure that we do not go index out of bounds, right? So I'm just going to do some boundary check here. If it's less than 0 or is greater than equals to grid.count, or j is less than 0 or j is greater than equals to grid of i.count, and then if it is, I'm just going to return 0 because we have went out of bounds, right? The second thing I'm going to check is if we happen to see water, right, which is 0. So if grid of I and j is 0, then we'll return 0. So we need to do this check because what we're going to do now is we're going to flip the current the current land that we see to 0. And the reason for doing this is because we want to mark this area as seen. We don't want to double count it, right? So imagine this is 1 because we're going to check the horizontal and vertical, and we don't want to sort of like count this spot again, right? So the only way to do that is like we not only way, one way to do it is just flip this 1 to 0. So that means it's water and we won't be interested in it. But the reason why we do this is just to make sure that we don't revisit that spot. So we have seen that spot, we don't want to double count it, and that's the reason why. And so what we're going to do here is we are going to do a recursive call here. So if count and grid I plus 1 and j, or yeah, just count it and grid of I plus 1, I minus 1, sorry, right? J and count and grid I and j plus 1 and count grid I j minus 1 and then return 1, right? So basically in this recursive call here, we are basically, if we take a look at this, I plus 1, I minus 1, j plus 1, j minus 1, is basically just going horizontally and vertically throughout the grid. And if we do not meet any of these boundary checks here, that means we are still it's still a land that is continuous basically. So so that's why we just return 1 essentially. Once we made this, we're going to exit out from this recursive call here. So what we're going to do now is number of islands, we're just going to pass in the count recursive here, and because this is an in out, we're going to pass grid I and j, and that should be the solution for us today. So just to recap, maybe I should just run it first in case I got it wrong. Okay, let's try and submit this. Hopefully we got it right, and there we have it. That is the solution. So basically, just to recap, we basically look through this 2D array and we basically check if it is a land, right? If it is, we're going to run this recursive call here, and then what happens in the recursive call is we're going to find out how big this one area is, right? If it does not meet any of these criteria, basically the loop will just keep going on. And the reason why we do this is just to mark the scene spot here so that we don't revisit and double count it. And basically we return 1 because we are basically calculating the continuous area essentially, right? And then we're just gonna add it into this variable here, and then we just return it. So basically that's how we solve it. We iterate through this 2D array and perform this recursive function call here throughout the entire grid horizontally and vertically. So yeah, I think that's all for today. I hope you guys find this video helpful. If you do, please help to spread the word. I'm trying to grow this channel and I'm going to post more video like this in the future. So thank you very much and take care. Bye bye.